I was a very, very fast schoolboy sprinter, and I was quite a bright kid as well. And then I won a scholarship, and I went to the Bristol Grammar School, and I was at the Bristol Grammar School. I was playing rugby and sort of improving as far as my sprinting and everything else was concerned. And then all of a sudden, I started having trouble with one of my knees. My knee started to swell up, and they raced me off to a tuberculosis sanatorium, and they kept me in hospital for a year trying to prove that I had tuberculosis. And then I came out of hospital and they put me in a leg brace, and I was growing like mad at the time. I was 5'9" when I went into hospital. I was 6'3" when I came out. And then at the age of 15 and a half, they turned around to me and they said, look, sorry, but there was nothing ever wrong with you in the first instance. It was just your joints reacting to your growing. And there was no TB in you or anything like this. And they said, throw away the leg iron and start doing some exercises. So I started swimming. And then I didn't like swimming very much. And one day I just happened to be walking home from the swimming pool, and I saw this bodybuilding magazine in one of the stationery shops on the way home. And I bought the magazine. It cost me 2.5p at the time. It was like sixpence,
Yeah.
I bought this bodybuilding magazine, took it home, and that was really the start of it. I became besotted with bodybuilding, and all I wanted to do was become Mr. Universe. And 9 years later, I got invited to enter. I was then one of the top 20 physiques in the country, and got invited to enter the Mr. Universe contest. And then after that, I changed over to competitive weightlifting. And then I had the first year I was in the Universe contest in 1960 when I was 25, and then the following year I went into the British Weightlifting Championships and became third place. Then 62 I won it, 63 I won it, 64 I won it, and then I never got selected to go to Tokyo for the Olympic Games. And I thought, well, there's nothing to stay amateur for any longer. I'll form a professional act. I'll call myself Britain's Strongest Man, and I did that for a while. I used to tour around with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Actually, Arnold used to be doing the the bodybuilding exhibitions, and I used to be doing all the weightlifting exhibitions. Yeah. And,
wow.
And then one day I happened to call on a stunt agency up in London. I was trying to sell. I was a salesman at the time as well. I was trying to sell vitamin pills and weightlifting equipment and sports trophies and swimwear and things like this. And I called on this stunt agency, and they said, look, if ever there was any work in show business, would you be interested? And I said, well, I've never ever acted before in my life. And they said, well, don't worry about that. We'll cross that hurdle when we come to it. And within 2 weeks, I had a call from the Mermaid Theatre, which was Sir Bernard Miles' theatre, and they said, would you like to come and see us? We've got a production here called Don't Let Summer Come In. We need somebody to play the part of Death. And all Death had to do was pick Kenneth Griffith, a little Welsh actor, up off of a bed and make it look as though he was floating away, pick him up very slowly but symbolically. And they auditioned lots of actors for this role, and nobody could pick Kenneth up. And I think he'd been dropped about 6 times by all these struggling out-of-work actors, And I went in, scooped him up off the bed and sort of held him at arm's length and said, well, where would you like him? And they said, well, that's beautiful. Can you do that twice nightly? And I said, if you pay me enough money, I'll do it as many times a night as you like. And that was really the start of it. That got me into the Actors Union. And then my agent then started sending me out for TV commercials, and I did quite a few television commercials to start with, and then into TV series. And I did things like The Saint and Department S and Jason King, The Avengers, The Champions, all sorts of things that were coming out of England at that time. That was like the mid-60s. And then I did my first film, which was Casino Royale.
Now, I was going to ask you about that, because we talked about Star Wars. Everybody knows Clockwork Orange and so on, and the Hammer movies, the Hammer House as well. But Casino Royale was a Bond film with a difference, wasn't it?
Well,
what a cast it had as well.
It did, didn't it? Yeah, it was. Well, I got offered this part in the movie, and they said, well, you're going to be working opposite Peter Sellers and Ursula Andress. I go, wowee, what an introduction to a movie career,
Yeah.
And so I went to the set, and then I met up with Orson Welles, and I met up with at that time, do you remember Jonathan Routh, who used to do Candy Camera? Yeah, well, he was very, very popular.
David Niven was in it,
he was working with Chuck Murray. Do you remember Chuck Murray?
Yeah.
God, and then Peter O'Toole came into the movie, and then later on they offered me a second part in the movie. The first part got scrubbed because I was playing opposite Peter Sellers, and that got scrubbed. And then the second part I went into was Frankenstein, and I was playing opposite Dahlia Lavi, and then there was Barbara Boucher and David Niven, of course, and then Woody Allen. It was wonderful.
We'll talk about Star Wars in a moment, but the role of the Green Cross Code Man actually did a lot of good work.
The Tufty Club was a preschool club for kids, and then when the kids went to school, they were introduced to the Green Cross Code. The Green Cross Code came in about 1970, I think it was. And I don't know whether you remember, they had Alvin Stardust, Kevin Keegan, and Joe Bugner, who were the personalities that introduced the campaign. And it went through until about 1976, and the government did some research and found that the kids, they couldn't understand why the road accident figures were going up. And when they interviewed the kids, they found out the kids knew all about Alvin Stardust and Kevin Keegan and Joe Bugner, but they didn't know anything about what the campaign was all around. So they thought, well, here we are, we're getting into a space age. You know, Star Wars was about to be done, and Superman was about to come out, and E.T. was coming out, and all these sorts of things. And they said, well, let's have our own Superman. And they got in touch with me and said, well, how would I have some test photographs to start with? And I had all these photographs done, walking the streets of Clapham in London with a whole crowd of kids. And it was strange because people were coming up to me in the middle of the street and saying, "Colin, mate, you're just what we need around here. Are you going to do this permanently?" And I said, "Well, no, I'm just having some photographs taken, And then, like a couple of months later, the Department of Transport came back and said, "Look, we'd like you very much to be the Green Cross Code man, and we want to film the first of the 3 Green Cross Code commercials in August." And I said, "Well, I'm sorry, but I'm already working on Star Wars." And so they said, "Well, do you think you can get time off?"
Thanks again for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please click on the like button, ring that notification bell to be informed of any future videos, and above all, make sure you subscribe. Thank you.